Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Faith Greater Than Fear. I'm here at GNPI in Joplin, Missouri, and from time to time we get to interview people all over the world, but sometimes we get to talk to people right here in Joplin, and that's what we have today with my good friend Kolby Allen. Kolby, welcome.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So tell us a little about the family and your recent, you're on staff at College Heights Christian Church. This is a new transition for you, which doesn't always happen for folks during COVID, which COVID doesn't happen, fortunately, very often either. So first about the family and then your recent transition.
Yeah. So my wife's name is Megan. We've been married 8 years. We met here at Ozark Christian College. She's from the area. We have 2 little boys, Atlas and Oliver. Atlas is 3.5 and Oliver is 1.5. So I started here at College Heights as the college minister, middle of May. So right in the heat of coronavirus lockdown. So yeah.
So how was that? I think our audience would like to know, how was packing up, saying goodbyes? Much of that probably not normal in terms of the hugs and blessings and all of that, or as the welcomes as well. So how did that go?
I don't want to be the overly positive guy, but honestly, all things considered, it went really well. The logistics actually worked out because no one was doing anything. And so boxes, moving truck, all those things were really easy to come by. As far as moving help, we had great help on both ends because no one was busy. But I'd say the hard part was obviously relationally. I'd been a student pastor for a number of years at the church near Omaha that I was at, and it was hard. It was really hard to, I'm really grateful for my coworkers that they put together a goodbye reception, but it was a drive-through goodbye reception. And so I couldn't give hugs or I don't know, man. So I was showing someone pictures from some of my time there yesterday. I think it was yesterday. And I kind of had to stop because it's a little tender, not having that closure. And so that part was definitely difficult. So,
yeah, there's just all kinds of people, aren't there, Kolby, with elements of closure, whether it's a job transition, a move because of some other relational reason, or a loss, or even a wedding. There's almost a loss in the wedding because it's just not going to be the way I always dreamt it was going to be.
Yeah,
you know. So made it down here to Joplin, on staff at College Heights Christian Church. School is started. I think what our audience wants to know from you, Mr. Wise One, is how do you deal with ministering and being a pastor to high school and college age kids in this month and season?
Right. I don't know. No.
Okay, next question.
Right. It's hard. It's really hard. I'd say if I were to pinpoint why is it hard? To me, it's this it's a lack of clarity, both institutionally. Me as a college pastor, I want to have a good relationship with the schools that I work with, and so I don't want to trudge over to just barrel through lines and boundaries that they've set up, and so. But it's hard to know what you can do. It's hard to know what you should do. And so that part I think has been hard, is the lack of clarity. And I'd say lack of clarity also personally. It's what does this person, what are they okay with? What are they offended by? What are they what do they feel uncomfortable with? So, man, it's been a hard season for that with this lack of clarity. I'd also say that's kind of our opportunity as a church and just as organizations in general. Is I think we have a lot of opportunity to lead with clarity. Everything else is being yo-yoed around where it's, hey, we're doing this thing. No, we're not. We're going to pull it back. Hey, we're doing this thing. And we have the opportunity to just be very clear. Hey, this is what we're about. This is what we're doing. And we're going to plan in a way that's not beat up constantly by coronavirus restrictions going up and down. So that's kind of where we're at as a team, is we're trying to lead with more clarity than we ever have before, and just structure ourselves in a way that's resilient to restrictions moving back and forth. So.
And so, Kolby, one of the things that we have to be aware of is that we've got to be sensitive to the school's administration. They're trying to balance their rules, their personal needs, the CDC, the state, all together. And so parents of teachers and parents of students and people going to churches requiring, hey, our staff need to be doing stuff out here. These are opportunities. Have to understand there's some real challenges there. And on the other side is you've got kids that are away from their families that are very, very worried about their little child that's now a freshman in college. He's gone off to school that's far away. And is he taking care of himself? And so there are ministry opportunities, but they're very, very challenging right now. So in this element of getting clarity, tell us, what are one of the two things that you're doing to give clarity to your ministry right now?
For me, giving clarity, I'm so early, like last night actually was our first, we called it vision night. I wanted to provide clarity, and when in the world have you ever heard of a college ministry taking 5 months off, almost 6 months off? And so in a way, I really am launching a new college ministry in a sense. And I guess, how am I giving clarity? I'll talk about how we kind of gained it. I guess this middle school, high school, and college team, we had an all-day retreat day to just kind of talk about how do we do ministry in this new setting. And we kind of backed all the way back up. If we're like, what are we about at the very core of who we are and what we do? If we were to say one thing, like red hot center, and we determined it's to equip adults to make disciples of students. And it's not events, it's not programs, it's not any of that stuff. It really comes down to that one-on-one relationship. Because that's how all of us grew. That's how all of us knew Jesus and came to faith in the first place, was friends and then adults who shepherded us. And so we really boiled down our ministry to that. And then we asked, what do we do in a way, what's resilient? And we determined it's that one-on-one relationship. And then beyond that, we're meeting in groups, so we're kind of foregoing a little bit as student ministries, the big gathering, the big pile of Christians. It's like we're really trying to spread ourselves out, because we just believe that's more resilient and is going to be yanked around less. And so last night, that's what I tried to communicate and give clarity around that, of like, discipleship is the core of who we are. And we want you to know how to be a disciple and know how to make a disciple. And so, so I guess answering the question, how am I giving clarity, might be a little tough, just me being so early, because last night was my first launch, so doing anything with college students. So I don't know how I did at giving clarity, but I took a swing at it. So.
Well, one of the things is probably, hey, we need lots of mature followers of Jesus to come up and step up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So they can have that pairing with somebody that they can love on, mentor, get to know, pray with, pour into, whatever verbs you want to use.
And that's been my daily prayer. I've got a list of things I'm praying for our campuses and for our college ministry. And the very first one is harvest workers. It's like the harvest goes to waste if there's not people there to harvest the crop. So that's what I'm praying about. And that's honestly what I see as my primary role is to get those harvest workers recruited and equipped.
Mm-hmm.
So
So you've got kind of the older individual that can pour into the college age. Tell me, or have you been talking about then dialing in, because we also grow when we pour into someone else, as we are being discipled as we disciple someone. Are you challenging them to have a junior high, someone that they are then connecting with? So there's
Yeah,
this line.
absolutely. And something I talked about last night was duckling discipleship. Have you heard that term?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
You
yeah.
know, it's pretty cool because um, we don't have to worry about the whole big movement. We don't have to worry about the whole big world. It's we follow the duck in front of us, and we do our best to be the type of people worth following, and we invite little ducklings, to follow behind us. So yeah, absolutely. That's something I talked about last night was like, man, we've got to be people worth following. And so um, that's the ideal. I hope that we get there, is that we've got these college students who are men and women who are worth following, and we're pouring into middle school and high school students. And I know we had a number of them that were the middle school and high school. They did a training at the same time as I had the vision night. And I know that they had a lot of college students there, which is awesome.
Awesome. Yeah. So the discipling process is organic. It's scriptural. It's what Jesus did with 12 and what then the 12 did with others. It doesn't depend on a building. It doesn't depend really on a huge, complicated curriculum. I was just talking to a gentleman before we jumped on our call here, and he was saying, Mike, what people did in getting comfortable in Jerusalem, God kind of removed the shield and let persecution, and it scattered. The similar kind of thing is happening with another P word, this one being a pandemic, and it's getting rid of our comfortableness and making us scatter. But we don't have to lose hope, do we? Because what you've explained is you're going to the very core of what Jesus said and did. And what he actually asked was not to make people know about a knowledge, but make a disciple. So unpack that a little bit in the guy who is on church staff,
Yeah.
and how it's going to look different. So what's your vision in this vision night for, of course, connecting a college student with someone older and a college student with someone younger in the faith?
Yeah.
How do you monitor that? How do you keep tabs on it? How do you coax it?
See, I think that last thing you said, how do you monitor? I think we've got to get to a spot where we are less and less in control. I think ministry or discipleship. I don't know if your audience is familiar with disciple making movements. I don't know how controlled they are by men. I think they're really controlled by the Spirit, and I think we've got to get to a spot where we're okay with not controlling every little nook and cranny of what's happening. I think something I tried to talk about last night was DNA. What kind of DNA do we have? And is it the kind that can replicate, that can multiply, and go out beyond our control? Because if it takes a master's degree and a full-time job to make it happen, it's not going to go very far. But if it's simple, if it's sticky, it's too good to forget, and if it's scalable, ooh, baby, like that's good stuff. Like that, I think that is the kind of stuff that Jesus, that he did in his life, as he did things that like a prison inmate or a fourth grader could do it. It's not necessarily easy, but it's simple. So, as church staff, I think we've got to get used to letting go of control. I think that's a huge piece, and I think we've got to move towards simplicity and having DNA elements that are easy to replicate outside of the gathering. Smoke and lights aren't easy to replicate in a dorm room on a Thursday afternoon, or in a jail cell, or in a nursing home. It's hard to get some smoke and lights in there, but man, you can pray, and you can love people, and you can study the Bible and share really easy. And so I think those are elements that can go beyond us pretty fast.
Yeah, I think the habit of, and I'm glad you, because I said it a bit facetiously when mentioning it, because when we have a group on a gathering on worship on Sunday, there's an element of control. There's an element of someone postured in front. There's all kinds of sociological cues that are given there that really don't lean themselves to just being more on that one-on-one. And so, like you said, with college age having events kind of taken away, feeding on other and the synergy of the group crowd kind of thing, you can kind of get lost and just be pulled along instead of really figuring out, why am I standing here? What am I about? Who am I going to disciple? It gets very personal, very quick. And so I think you're right on that. We're redefining and getting used to, again, what basic, simple discipleship is. I also heard from a person that said recently that stories save souls. And I think that the people talking about their own journey to finding Jesus, that story, along with Jesus's stories, very simple, are able to save souls. So what words of encouragement would you give to other people in your chair? And secondly, what encouragement would you give to students starting the new year?
I think people in my chair, I'd say keep the main thing the main thing. It's, what did Jesus tell us to do? He told us to make disciples, right? And so, I'm not preaching from a place of doing this perfectly, but I think my challenge for myself and for others in my position is, who are you discipling today? It's easy to get caught up in the hamster wheel, the spanking machine, the weekly, like, hey, Sunday's coming. And it's easy to get caught up in that, but who are you pouring into today? And what are you pouring in? Is it gospel, or is it good advice? So I think that'd be my encouragement to brothers and sisters that are in my similar spot. Students, I would say you have a great opportunity to learn to slow down, to learn to, like, we've had so many sports taken away, so many clubs taken away. People and organizations have really been exposed, right? We've been exposed to, like, who are we really? You take away all these superficial things, and all of a sudden, as an organization, you go, whoa, we're not as good as we thought. Or as a middle schooler, as a college student, you're going, whoa, like, without all of these clubs and these sports, like, who am I really, and where am I heading? And so for students, I'd say this is a good opportunity to learn to slow down, to learn to be quiet, to learn to read and spend time with Jesus, and learn to cultivate a heart that's after God's own heart, to learn to cultivate ears that hear the Spirit and His call on your life. And so that's something that's been, like, I think, just exposed in my own life is my own immaturity in those places, in my inner world. And so that's where I've been really challenged, and where I've seen students that I love, I've seen them challenged there as well. So let's lean into it, and let's grow there. So yeah.
Good words. Thank you for some of your time in this busy season of getting things up and launched and adjusted to a new city and a new congregational culture and so forth. So, Kolby Allen, thank you. And for all of you listening today, we want to thank you for just tuning in a little bit, and hopefully hearing this good brother's heart for middle school, high school, and particularly college age kids. These are our next generations that he's pouring into. So pray for the Kolbys of the world. Would you pray for those that are in your congregation, sitting in the chairs he's sitting in? And then for our students, It is a tough and challenging and different time, and yet it doesn't have to be one of depression, does it, or of wastedness. It can be a time of seizing the opportunities. So if you loved what you've heard from Kolby, if you want to show up at College Heights Christian Church, he'd love to either online or physical opportunity connect with you. And so if you think this touched you in any way, share it on your social media channels. And the podcast is coming out too. So until next time, from myself, Mike Schrage, and Kolby Allen, we want to ask you to have a blessed day. And thanks for staying tuned to next time on Faith Greater Than Fear.